If you've ever wondered how to paint a beautiful, quick and relaxing floral with no pressure and no huge time commitment needed, you've clicked on the right video. I'm going to show you how to paint the easiest and most colourful floral ever, and you'll love both the process and the result. Plus, in part 2, you'll discover an artist's top tip for making the most of your first inexpensive Paul Rubens pan set to bring it up to true professional standard. So let's get started. Now I'm going to use some strong and vibrant colours, and I'm going to try and paint them fairly large. I think my number 4 Meeden quill brush will be big enough. We'll see. I'm going to start with the biggest and the darkest flower of all, first of all, and we're going to paint him in blue, a mixture of what I believe is Berlin blue or Prussian blue, I think, mixed with some quinacridone purple, which will give us a very dark blue. And I'm going to just pop in here some large, fairly random petals of a large and fairly random flower, without making any attempt to make it look lifelike at all. Okay, and then maybe we'll just try a little bit of, that's a size 2 brush, and we'll add a little bit of turquoise in 1 or 2 places there just to liven it up a little bit. Okay, and then we'll clean our brush. What I'm going to do is put in the pinks and yellows and oranges and blues first. I think I'll work my way down, and then I'll come in with the leaves. I'm going to mix now. This is quinacridone purple. I'm going to mix that with a bit of quinacridone rose to give us a dark reddish colour. And we'll make that a bit redder for the next petal. And you can see we're getting a lot of dry brush effect where the paint doesn't sink into all the holes on the surface of the paper because it's a bit more rough. It's a bit more rougher. So over this side here, we'll go for some yellow. Let's go into our quinacridone gold, which goes very well with ochre to give a nice orangey colour, which when you dilute it down will be more like a, what do you call it, peach colour. I'm not sure about the colour here that I've got. The blue seems to me to be a little bit too, I don't know, too dark, but I'm going to try a different colour down the bottom here. And if I have to, I can turn it around the other way. Yes, well, we'll see how this works out. I'm going to doodle over the top of it in any case, so we're not too worried about anything, really. And, yeah, I might put a bit of dark in the middle of there, perhaps. Now I need to wash my brush out because I need to put a various and assorted set of blobs of floral kind of things in different colours. I want that to be more yellow. And I'm just picking things up at random. Let's put a bit more pink in there. And then when I've got all these blobs in, I shall try to make some leaves go in between everything. And we'll see how that works. And then at the end, we might put in a few more flowers if we feel we've got gaps. So now let's turn around the other side to the green. And I'm going to paint in lots of leaves in different colours of green. I've got various different colours of green here. Just get them activated a bit. And we'll just try to fairly, you know, kind of just spontaneously pick up different colours of green. And I've got yellow over there. I should have some more yellow over here, really, so that I can add yellow in. Maybe I can find some yellow. Let's put a bit of this one there. So we'll just start with, if you like painting leaves, this is a lot of fun, just kind of coming in on top of everything. You can add a little bit of yellow, so you've got more of an acidic colour, a little bit. Or you can keep it really dark. If you want to make a green really, really dark, then you want to add some black. This is phthalo green, I think, or something like that. It's pretty dark. But if you add a bit of black to it, you get a really, really dark colour. And we want to put some really dark ones in here and there. And then we'll go to the yellow. And let them all smush into one another. I don't think there's any brush that's better for painting leaf shapes than these quill brushes, I have to say. Couldn't be better, really. And this one up here, I'm going to try and go over this flower a bit because I'm not terribly fond of the way that colour has come out. So we'll put some nice dark leaves on top and see if we can make it retreat a little bit. So we can pretend, can't we, that the stem came up behind. And that flower is now behind the stem of the leaves, so that's quite good. And we'll put this one down here. And what have we got down here? Let's bring this stem down here a bit. You don't need to make the stems all stiff and rigid or anything like that. You can just make them flowy and fun. And we do the same to this blue one down here, perhaps. And have a, how would that work? That would work by taking this one up here and then down there like that. Okay. Well, I'm going to leave it like that for the second and go into the centres of some of these. Here comes the rain again. So maybe because this one is quite a long way back, sorry, we will make that nice and dark, the centre. And this one the same, perhaps. Leaving little bits of white here and there. And then we could pick up a bit more pink. We can go over some of these flowers with a second coat of colour, which will inevitably make them a bit more three-dimensional. And hopefully they're all still a bit damp, so they'll be flowing out to do various and assorted different things. Okay. Now I'm going to take a bit more of the very dark green mixed with black, and we'll just try to put in a few fine veins. Just using the tip of this size 4 brush to get a very fine line. And we might add a little bit to the stems in a few places, but I don't want to do too much. And just a few odds and ends of shadows here and there. And then I'm going to let it dry. I think I might have a cup of tea. What do you think? I'm also going to stop now because my battery is running low, so we'll have a pause. Okay, so the painting is done. We'll talk about that at the end. And I just want to do now a quick review of a set of paints that I've been sent by Paul Rubens, which is their 5th generation artist's level solid watercolor pigments 48 set. These are top of the range as far as Paul Rubens are concerned, and without wishing to alarm anybody, they are their most expensive as far as I can tell, having checked on Amazon, and they run out at the moment at around about $80. There is a discount on them at the moment as they're celebrating their, I don't know, 15th, I think, yes, 15th anniversary. So various and assorted reviews have all approved them as being very, very good paint. I've made some notes here from online, and I'm going to quickly run through what I've written because I don't want to leave anything out. This box is the container that contains the tin. The tin comes wrapped in some microfiber cloth. So for any of you who haven't yet had one of these Paul Rubens sets, this is a very sturdy box and can be used to keep this safe, no problem. This has been recommended as being possible to use to dry your brush or clean your palette when you've used it. And, you know, I mean, you can, or just keep it nice and pristine to wrap up your tin with, if you were traveling with the whole thing, I suppose. As well as the paints, you've got a little leaflet telling you about the origin of these paints in Chinese, which you can translate if you just hold your phone up to it and Google Translate it. It just tells you what you'd expect to read. And, you know, nothing terribly interesting there. I haven't bothered to translate it, although I think it's here on the back, come to think of it. Sorry, Paul, I misrepresented your... Yes, well, anyway. So there we are. That's that. Nothing very much important there. This is a swatch card. I don't know why they do this, but they always fold it into 3. So it's got these extra folds in it, and then they put it inside the tin. I don't know why, because if the original fold is in the middle, and if it was just put like that, it fits perfectly well. So that mildly irritates me because I can't get it to go flat now. But it is a good thing to have. You put all your colours next to the names and you know what's what. However, I prefer myself to make my own swatch card. I've got lots of different ways of doing this, but this is the bog standard way that I use. This will go inside my tin, and everything's laid out exactly in the order in which it occurs in the tin. As a starting point, should you wish to take some of them out, then you know where they belong if you wish to put them back, if you see what I mean. So I will be filling that in later. And so this is considered to be what they call a portable box. As I said to my daughter, I don't know that I've ever encountered a box that wasn't portable, so I'm not quite sure what they mean. But what they mean is that you can carry it when you go painting and put your thumb through the ring on the back there. I think that's what they mean. So it's a travel set that you can use en plein air, so to speak, when you go out. And here it is in all its glory. It's a nice sturdy tin, as all Paul Rubens tins are. They're all the same as everyone else's actually. And this is nicely enameled, so you can do your mixing on here, and it won't stain. And you might get a bit of beading because it's shiny, but as you use it and give it a bit more wear and so on, it'll start to stop beading, if you see what I mean. You can always abrade it a little bit with something like Jif or one of those, slightly grainy cleaning pastes or something like that. And you can make it stop beading a bit, but I don't think that's really necessary. Anyway, I don't normally use these parts myself. I prefer to use a ceramic palette, but at least it's there. If you do take it out and go en plein air, you don't have to take a ceramic palette with you. Okay, so the next thing to say is that the previous set to this had 24 colours, and this one has another 24, and it's got some interesting new colours in it that the older set didn't have, which include things like olive green, indanthrone blue, quinacridone magenta, cobalt turquoise, and Payne's grey bluish, which is great to have. Payne's grey is a much underrated colour that is very useful for many, many things. And people who have reviewed this on Amazon have said things like they wet easily, so they're ready to go straight away. You don't have to spray them or anything like that. They are completely light fast, so they don't fade. And they contain extremely highly concentrated pigment, which is also highly transparent. So they're perfect for any kind of painting. And I was thinking that I would test them compared to my Michael Harding paints, which I've just painted this with. I thought it might be interesting to take the colours that I've used here out of here, which I'm sure exist here, and I'll know that once I've swatched them, and see whether I can come any close to the intensity of this, which came out quite well. As you can see, the colours are pretty intense, and that's Michael Harding, which are obviously much, much, much more expensive. For 48 colours of Michael Harding, you would be looking at something like $500. So it's not exactly the same ballpark, but wouldn't it be interesting if you could get the same amount of intensity out of these? Maybe I would doubt it, but you never know. Might be worth a try. So I'm going to try. What else is there? Oh, yes. Okay, so these, they claim to have used the highest quality gum arabic, which means that not only do they remain completely transparent, but the spreading and the mingling and the mixing is all very efficient and even, and so on and so forth. And there's nothing that is animal-based in any of these paints, so they're vegan-friendly. And they also, what else was it about the paint? Yeah, I think I've gone through all of that. My set came with 3 spare paints, so it actually had 51 in it. And this is just duplicates of the blue, the yellow, and the green. I don't know why they did that, but they did. So those are extras. They match this one, and this one, I think it was. And they have improved something here. These are removable. Okay, I'm not sure how easily they remove yet because I haven't tried to get one out. But yes, once you get the first one out, it's probably not going to be so hard. Oh yes, also, I forgot this, that whole thing comes out. So while you're playing around with the paints, you can do that. You can take them out. Makes it easier to get in there, I think. Come on, behave yourself. This is always the hardest part, and I hate it. Whenever I get sent a set of these, I think, oh. So anyway, they have made this a bit easier. The wrapper comes off much more easily than it used to. So you just have to flick that apart like that. And there we are. We have our white, and you can read, if the camera focuses, if my eyes focus, that is titanium opaque white. Some people like to keep these and stick them to a swatch card. That's not a bad idea. You can do that. And then you have to just literally go through them all, take them all out, which is what I hate. I won't tell a lie. I don't like doing this because it's difficult. So I'm not going to do this on camera. I'm going to go away now and break all my fingernails and come back when I've got them out. Right, okay, so I have now removed all of the wrappers from all of these 48 paints here very carefully. And in order to do that, I had to take them all out, take all the wrappers off, keep them in order. And this has taken me an hour and a half. So be prepared when you buy this set, which I certainly don't disrecommend, if you see what I mean. It's going to take you a little while to get started. So you just have to be patient. And what I've done this time, and I've never done this before, but I have seen it recommended, I have carefully, rather than throwing them away in a temper, carefully preserved all of these little wrappers, which came off okay, except for the ones that stuck. A couple of them did stick because I suppose they were put on before the paint was completely dry. But anyway, I managed to salvage all of them. And what I've done, I've used some double-sided sticky tape here, double-sided scotch. And that has given me a sticky background that I could put these labels on in order. So now they match up exactly with the paints. So you can see this is the top row, then this row, and this row. So I'll always have a record here of what these are, because unless I'm much mistaken, it doesn't say what they are on the back. No, it doesn't. This is, I think, an error. And it's probably the one thing that will annoy if you lose your record of what's what. So something to be aware of. They don't label the backs of the pans, unlike the more expensive ones like Schminke and I presume Daniel Smith do. They put it on the back, and I think that's really important. So we have to make some kind of an arrangement to get over that problem. And this is the best I've been able to come up with now, because I've fallen foul of this a couple of times in the past. Anyway, so now my next step, before I even start to think about painting, is to actually swatch them out with the live paints onto my homemade card here, which has got the 48 spaces. And then I will have two things to refer to. On here, we've got the names of all the colours, the pigment references, so I know what they've got in them, and obviously some indication of what the colours are like from what they've printed onto these little labels. Now, the only problem with this is that it's very small printing, and I'm just wondering what I've done with my magnifying glass. Anyway, either a magnifying glass or else you can obviously use your phone to make it bigger for you. Yeah, that's another small problem. Oh dear, never mind. Okay, let's get started with the painting side of this. This is white, this is silver. Not worried about those, so I'll leave those two blank. So I'll pick up this one, which is Naples Yellow. Naples Yellow is a slightly opaque colour. It's got a little bit of white in it usually. So that's that. And that did indeed wet up really quickly. No need to put any kind of pre-wetting in on there. And then the next one along is Lemon Yellow. It really is almost, it's at the limit of my visual capacity to read that. It's so small. And I know my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, but I don't think I could ever have read that. And the next one is cadmium yellow. Cadmium is a little bit opaque-ish, and people say, oh, these two yellows are the same, but they're not, because lemon yellow is more translucent, transparent than cadmium. So although they look a little bit similar, they aren't really. And then the next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So this one is cadmium yellow light, and this one is cadmium yellow medium. But they are very highly pigmented, no doubt about that. This one has got to be cadmium orange. So I've got a solution here. I've taken a photograph of all of these and I've put it on my iPad, and I've zoomed in so that I can actually read it, so I can actually get on with this without constantly straining my eyes. It really is too small. I'm sorry, that is definitely too small. So now we are up to chromium yellow hue deep, which is the 7th one along, isn't it? This one here. So it's a kind of light orange. I'm not trying to indicate the transparency of each of these. I'm going to trust what they say, which is that they're pretty much transparent. So now the next one is Indian yellow. I'm looking at my painting that I did earlier using the Michael Harding paints, and I think the Indian yellow would probably match up fairly well with the yellow that I used, or the orangey colour that I used. So that's good. So after Indian yellow, we've got earth yellow, which is this one, which looks very much like yellow ochre. And then the one after that is gold. Okay, well, we'll try that one out. Gold as in metallic gold. That's probably going to take a bit more wetting. Won't be able to tell whether that's any good until it's dry. And then after that, we have golden yellow ochre. Which is this one, which doesn't look as if it's got an awful lot of pigment in it. And then this is transparent yellow. It doesn't look yellow in the pan. As you can see, it's here. It doesn't look yellow at all, but that is well worth remembering that that is a good, that looks like almost like quinacridone gold, really. So then now we're going to go back to the beginning of the second row. And we have chromium orange hue. A good floral colour, I would say, wouldn't you? Cadmium orange deep. These paints should go a very long way. Then we've got transparent orange. Yeah, a set like this would probably, you can see how it's transparent compared to the one here, which is definitely got more opacity. And then after that, we've got cadmium red light, which is this one. And that again is a slightly opaque colour. All the cadmiums tend to be on the opaque side. After cadmium red light, we've got burnt sienna, which should be brown. Swatching out a new set of paints like this is very good if you're not very familiar with what colours look like, because these are standard colours like burnt sienna, cadmium red and so on. And you can save yourself eventually a lot of time once you can sort of more or less guess what they are. So after burnt sienna, we've got Pyrrole Ruby Red. Pillowbox red, I would say that is. That's very bright. And then the next one after Pyrrole Ruby is Quinacridone Rose. This is a good floral colour. So far, this is looking like a good floral set, actually. That's very strong. My goodness. You're going to want to dilute these down a long way. And then after Quinacridone Rose, we've got Perylene Maroon, which is always, it's a red that's got a kind of just a little tint of brown in it. Some maroons are actually really brownish. And in fact, marron actually means brown in French. After Perylene Maroon is Venetian Red, which is this one here, which is a burnt brick kind of colour, good for buildings if you happen to live in England, I would say. After Venetian Red, we've got Indian Red, which is pretty similar but a bit darker. And after Indian Red, we've got Agate Brown. Not as highly pigmented, but that might be something to bear in mind if and when you buy these paints, that some of them are going to be much more highly pigmented than others. Like this one here and this one here, they both have much less oomph about them. That doesn't mean to say they're no good, but it just means that they are a little bit less enthusiastic. And this one too, Van Dyke Brown, although I think they always get this spelt wrong. They write Andyke Brown, but it's not Andyke Brown. It's Van Dyke Brown. That is Van Dyke Brown. It's a bit like raw umber. Okay, so now we're on the next row. So I need to go to my next photo. And we have Quinacridone Maroon. Oh, the joys of mobile phones and their ability to enlarge things. It's amazing. Very helpful. So what did I say that was? That's Quinacridone Maroon. It's a kind of deep pink. Nice colour for flowers, I would say. And then that's followed up by Quinacridone Magenta, which is another pink. As I touched on that, you could see that flowing in. You see how quickly that moved? So I'm thinking that there's quite a lot of wetting agent in these paints, so they mix very readily together. Now we have Quinacridone Violet. I'm going to try not to let them touch too much because they just try to leap into the neighbouring square. And that's, what did I say that was? Quinacridone Violet. Okay, next one is Cobalt Turquoise. This is one of my new favourite colours for putting into florals as a contrast with the pinks. It really brings them out. And you can, I think, probably get that to go darker if you use a bit more pigment. The intensity of the Cobalt Turquoise would, for me, be an important feature. And if you found that one or two of the paints in your set were not up to it, you could always swap them out and put something in there that you preferred. And you've still got a lot of really good colours for a very low price. This is Transparent Turquoise. And that, again, that's a lovely one. That's actually really strong and complements this one nicely, doesn't it? Again, a good one for florals, for leaves, for the occasional leaf to lift the whole thing. Cobalt Blue Light is here. Good old sky blue. Can't say anything bad about Cobalt Blue. Makes nice browns, makes nice clouds. And after Cobalt Blue, we have Azure Blue, which to me looks like a light phthalo blue or Berlin blue. That's quite a nice colour too, good for the sea, I would say. So after Azure, we do have Berlin blue, which probably is a bit darker. Starting to look like indigo, isn't it? This Berlin blue. And after Berlin blue, we've got French blue. So that, I don't know if we've got indigo in here, but if we haven't, the Berlin blue is probably a good substitute. Have I missed one out? I'm going to go to the end here and work backwards and see whether I've missed something out. I always do. Quinacridone violet is here. Wow. Almost looks like black. Next to that is brilliant blue violet. I think I must have missed one out. That's annoying. But never mind. I can always repair it. Before brilliant blue violet is phthalo blue. That's this one. A stronger version of Berlin blue. And then this one is French blue. And no, I haven't missed anything out. I don't know how I managed to think I had, but there we are, French blue there. And the one before French blue is Berlin blue. Okay, so that's that row. Whew, I'm getting tired. Right, so here we have, at the beginning, the greens. The greens, very important. But before we get to the greens, we've got Indanthrone blue, which is, I think, the funniest name and one of the most popular colours around at the moment. And it's really good to see that colour in this set. New to the set. And then we have indigo. Let's see what that looks like compared to the one over here that I said looked a bit like indigo. That was Berlin blue, wasn't it? Yeah, they've put more black in this. So it's basically something like this with more black, but fairly transparent. This one is going to be May green. That's a good mixer with other things. Don't think I would ever really use that, not very much anyway, on its own, but with a tiny touch of yellow or blue, you're going to get some really nice leaf colours. Now we have sap green, a good standby for anything botanical. But again, you probably wouldn't use it straight out of the pan. You would mix something with it to soften it, make it a little bit more natural. After sap green, we have oriental green, a truly non-natural green, but a great mixer, makes good browns if you mix it with a red. Something to explore, something you would be surprised by mostly when you play around with it. And following that one, we've got olive green. That is almost good enough to use straight from the pan as a leaf green, especially if you were just doing little touches, you'd be okay with that. Now I'm going to pop to the end so I don't get muddled up. And then I'll come back from the far end. We've got lamp black here. It used to be made from the charred black stuff that used to accumulate inside lamps, so like soot. That's why it's called lamp black. I don't know if they still do. And this one is ivory black, which obviously used to be made by burning ivory, as in elephants' tusks, but obviously not anymore. I don't know what they do to make the substitutes. This one is Payne's Grey Bluish, which is really a black, but it's softened with a tiny touch of blue. Payne's Grey comes in all sorts of variations, and you could have 10 different Payne's Greys from 10 different manufacturers, and probably none of them would be the same as the next one. This one, after Payne's Grey, is Brown Umber. These seem to be quite granulating. I'm getting a fair bit of granulation on there. You can probably see that if I lift it up. Hopefully it'll focus. And that's nice if you're making rocks and things like that. It's good to have a little bit of granulation. Cobalt Turquoise Dark is the fifth one along, so that'll be this one. And we are nearly finished. That's also granulating. That's a nice soft turquoise, isn't it? Could see that in some... I think this is actually a really good floral set. As I'm looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, yes, you wouldn't go far wrong if you bought this if you were interested in painting flowers, especially actually if you were looking to paint them in a fairly realistic manner, because you've got lots of oranges and reds and yellows to choose from and to mix. So you've got basically an infinite range of colours there. So now we are fully equipped with all the information we need so that we can actually use this set. This is what they look like. This is what they're called. All the information's on here. All the pigment information is on here. And you can see also that the colours of them do not exactly what I would call match up with the printed versions at all. It's not helpful. But you have, when you've made your own swatch, you know what colours are hiding there under those little pans. The great thing about this is its flexibility, because, as I said, you might not want the silver and the gold. Take them out, and, you know, if you want to have, let's say, what's an interesting colour? So something like buff titanium from Daniel Smith, very useful colour, not the same as this, lighter and more subtle. You can pop that in there and no problem. You know, you don't have to stick with every single one of these. You're bound to find that there are some that you don't use. We're quite heavy on the blacks. 2 blacks is probably more than anybody needs. And not very many people use the white. I wonder how the white comes up, actually, as far as opacity goes. I need to find a piece of paper that's been painted on. Let me see, what can I find? I'll just try that out. There we are, let's see. Well, that's good, that's good. That's pretty good. That means that the white is definitely worth keeping, because that's for touching up mistakes and for putting the highlights in the eye of a bird or something like that. It's probably going to dry a bit lighter than it looks when it first goes on, but you can always come back with a second layer to make it whiter still. So there we are. I'm going to leave it there. I will have a go at repeating this painting that I did using these paints, and maybe I'll show it to you in a future video. But I just wanted to show you another little trick. I've got this painting here that I did earlier. This is just before I go and leave you in peace. So here it is in its nudity as finished. I've taken the tape off from around the outside edges, and when I looked at it, I thought to myself, let me see if I can just remove this. I thought to myself, I'm not sure whether I need to put in another couple of leaves here or there. So, see, and I'm still not sure. I quite like this. I like the openness of it. And I thought, but I feel as if that yellow ought to be a bit bigger. And I feel as if I want to break this line with a leaf. But if I tried to do it, because I have very limited visual imagination, I do really, I can't be sure. And then you have the other thing, which is, can I actually do a stroke that'll look right? That's the biggest problem. So I thought, I'm going to try it out. So I painted a couple of leaves on a separate piece of paper, and I've cut them out, and I painted a couple of splotches for flowers. And then I thought, I'm going to try them out. So I put some blue tack on the back, and I thought, let's see what happens when I put this on, and exactly where do I need to put it? Exactly where? Does it want to go that way? Does it want to go this way? So that is no, and it probably wants to go like this. So you can try out these slight alterations. And then I thought, well, what about up here? Can I, you know, does it need that? Does it need that? And you can play around until you get it right. And so that's what I thought I would do. And I think probably I would only need two. One, make this one just a tiny bit bigger and put in one more leaf there. So then I popped the mount on it. And this is another excellent technique for deciding whether or not you like the painting that you've done. You might think, well, if I look at the whole thing, I don't know, maybe, do you remember this flower that we did at the beginning? And I said, that's come out a different color to what I wanted, so I want to make it recede. So I painted some leaves over the top of it. And then the thing is, when you finish and you are going to frame it, because you like it enough to frame, you can actually make that flower less important and this one more important by taking a mount that is smaller than the whole painting, and you can move it around until you get it exactly where you want it, which I think for this one would probably be something like that. And then you might say, well, I don't need that extra petal, but I do need this one. So I would probably settle for something along those lines. You can reduce this gap a bit by moving it over here. Don't be afraid to cut off some of your leaves and things like that. So maybe something like that. And then we can try out a frame. I don't know whether a black frame is what I would actually put in the end, but it gives you an idea. It's just what I happen to have handy with no picture in it at the time. So there we are, a couple of tips about how to think about framing your painting. And I hope you enjoyed that. I hope this video hasn't been too long, but it might be one that you might want to come back to if you're considering buying the 48 set of 5th generation, that is to say professional quality, half pan, Paul Rubens, highly transparent, quite heavily pigmented colours. And approximately at the moment $80 for that, but I think there's a discount as well, so why not go and have a look. I'll put a link in the description below, and hope to see you again next time round. So I'll say bye-bye for now, everybody. Take care, have a good weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Oh, and don't forget, the new challenge starts next week too, and you can pick up the challenge sheet from either from Facebook or from our website, or probably there'll be a link to it on YouTube too. So, and that's going to be called Daily Doodle Detox. I'll let you go now. Bye now, everyone. Bye-bye.